Hello and welcome to Drama Recaps. Today, we're delving into the 2006 drama film, The Pursuit of Happiness. Get ready for some spoilers. Set in the backdrop of San Francisco in 1981, we follow the life of Chris, a struggling salesman who peddles bone density scanners. Each day, he juggles dropping off his son, Junior, at daycare and hustling through the city to sell his scanners. However, sales are challenging due to the machine's high cost and limited utility. During his bus commutes, he encounters a peculiar homeless man who whimsically labels the scanner a time machine. If a day demands extended hours for a sale, he requests his wife, Linda, to pick up their son. Linda, burdened by multiple shifts to make ends meet, often displays resentment towards this. During a typical evening, Chris discovers a Rubik's Cube, a gift from Linda's friend and a popular item of the time. A tax-related discussion ensues between the couple, causing friction as Chris plans to file for an extension. One day, an encounter with a man stepping out of a high-end sports car sparks curiosity in Chris about his profession. The man, a stockbroker, tells Chris that he doesn't need a college degree for his job, only a knack for numbers and people. Inspired by this, Chris envisions such a life for himself. Despite Linda's skepticism, Chris decides to pursue a stockbroker position at a firm. The firm recruits 20 individuals every 6 months, with only one ultimately securing the job. On the day of his interview, Chris entrusts his scanner to a singing hippie woman for safekeeping, only for her to abscond with it. Although he manages to recover the scanner, it leads to a delay in selling the scanners, causing disappointment at home. In a bid to follow up on his application, Chris orchestrates a shared taxi ride with Jay, the resource department manager. During the ride, Chris successfully solves Jay's Rubik's Cube, leaving him profoundly impressed. However, without any money to pay the cab fare, Chris ends up fleeing the scene, leading to a frantic chase by the taxi driver. In the ensuing chaos, Chris loses another scanner. Following the day's tumultuous events, an apology call to Linda escalates into a heated argument as the incident causes her to miss her shift, affecting their precarious financial situation. The breaking point finally arrives when Linda decides she is leaving Chris and plans to take Junior with her. Distressed by this revelation, Chris hurries home only to find Linda has already departed, taking their son and her belongings with her. However, he receives a call from Jay, who asks Chris to note down his secretary's number for a scheduled interview the next day. Unable to find a pen, Chris memorizes the number and later borrows paper from a store to write it down. The following day, Chris confronts Linda at the daycare about her abrupt departure. She expresses her unhappiness, and though Chris agrees to let her go, he is adamant about retaining custody of Junior. With Linda's income gone, their financial situation spirals out of control. When the landlord demands overdue rent, Chris pleads for an extension, offering to paint the apartment himself. During the painting process, the police arrive, citing unpaid parking tickets, and Chris ends up spending a night in jail. With the interview scheduled for the next day, he uses his one phone call to ask Linda to pick up Junior. After being released, Chris rushes to the interview in his worn-out clothes, explaining his situation and impressing the interviewers with his intelligence and wit. However, upon learning that the position is an unpaid internship, Chris hesitates to accept it given his financial constraints. Jay encourages him to reconsider, assuring him of a potential spot. Later that evening, Linda drops a bombshell: she's moving to New York for a job opportunity and plans to take Junior with her. However, Chris insists on keeping Junior, determined to care for him despite their circumstances. Spurred by Linda's decision, Chris accepts the internship. Moving to a motel with the help of a friend, Chris tries to keep spirits high. During a basketball session with Junior, he advises his son never to let anyone discourage him from his dreams. Their situation improves slightly when Chris manages to sell a scanner at a local hospital. At his internship, Chris works diligently, striving to prove his worth without revealing his financial struggles. During a lunch break, he engages his boss, Mr. Frome, in conversation to make a good impression. However, he is interrupted by the sight of the eccentric homeless man carrying his scanner. A chase ensues, leading to Chris losing one of his shoes in a traffic accident. Regardless, he returns to work, maintaining a facade of nonchalance. For the following days, Chris continues to juggle his internship, sell his remaining scanners, and take care of Junior, all while evading the motel manager due to unpaid dues. His workload increases as he has to leave early to pick up Junior, and so, he resorts to never hanging up the phone and avoiding breaks, all to prove his dedication and secure the coveted position. One day, in a bold move, Chris decides to break from his routine and make a high-risk call, securing a meeting with top-tier pension fund manager, Mr. Ribbon. However, his efforts to reach the meeting are hampered by a parking issue, and by the time he gets there, Mr. Ribbon has left. Undeterred, Chris visits Mr. Ribbon's house the next morning and manages to score an invitation to a football game in Ribbon's private box. Despite failing to sell his proposal to Ribbon, he manages to get the contact information of Ribbon's affluent friends who express interest. As weeks pass, Chris continues to struggle, juggling between his unpaid internship and selling the scanners. To make matters worse, the IRS seizes money from Chris's account for unpaid taxes, leaving him penniless. A desperate attempt to reclaim a debt from an old friend fails, and when he sees the eccentric man with his scanner in the park, he retrieves it only to find it no longer works. A series of unfortunate events follows. Upon returning to their motel, they find their belongings outside due to unpaid dues and the lock changed. With nowhere else to go, Chris and Junior are forced to spend the night in a station bathroom, playing a game to distract themselves from their circumstances. After a rejected attempt to find shelter in a women and children's only facility, they manage to secure the last spot at another shelter. In the shelter, Chris uses the little available light to fix the scanner and study for his internship exam. At work, he manages to bring in some clients thanks to the cards he collected from Ribbon's friends. Despite his nervousness, Chris performs well in his exam, even lending his boss $5 to pay for a cab, though it meant him and Junior sleeping on a train that night. In the following days, Chris sells blood for money to buy a spare part for the scanner, and successfully fixes it. He manages to sell the scanner and splurges on a hotel stay to uplift Junior's spirits. They even spend a relaxing weekend at the beach. On his last day as an intern, Chris is praised by Jay for his excellent work. He is later called into Fromm's office, where he is informed that he has been selected for the permanent position he coveted. Overwhelmed with joy, he leaves the building crying, referring to this moment as the part of his life called happiness. He picks up Junior and holds him tight, ready to start their new life. The real-life Chris went on to form his own multi-million-dollar brokerage firm, making millions from selling his minority stake in the firm. He also penned a successful book, sharing his inspiring journey. This is the end of the movie. Let me know what you think about this movie in the comments, and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss the release of new content. Thanks for watching.